Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Endeavour and watched the massive space station grow larger on the screen. The station was bigger than any city he had ever seen, and it sparkled with lights from 1,000 different worlds. This was Nexus Prime, the capital of the Galactic Federation, and humanity was about to make first contact with over 200 alien species. Jake felt his heart beating fast, but he kept his face calm. Behind him stood Dr. Lisa Carter, the mission's top scientist who studied alien life forms. Next to her was Staff Sergeant Alex Rodriguez, a tough Marine who had fought in 3 different wars on Earth. The rest of the crew worked quietly at their stations, all of them knowing that this moment would change human history forever. The communication system came alive with strange sounds, and then a voice spoke in perfect English. "Human vessel, you are cleared to dock at Bay 779. Welcome to the Galactic Federation." Jake smiled a little because the translator technology was working perfectly. Earth scientists had worked for months to make sure humans and aliens could talk to each other. As the ship docked, Jake looked out at the alien workers moving around the station. Some looked like giant insects with too many arms and legs. Others were made of what seemed like living rock or metal. A few appeared to be clouds of gas floating in special suits. Jake had studied the files about different alien species, but seeing them in person was completely different. The airlock opened, and 3 aliens walked into the ship. The first one was tall and thin with green skin and 4 arms. The second looked like a walking tree with branches instead of hair. The third was the most unusual. It seemed to be made of living crystal that changed colors as it moved. All 3 wore fancy robes that showed they were important diplomats. "I am Ambassador Zektar of the Vorthak Empire," said the green-skinned alien with a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "These are my colleagues from the Plant Federation and the Crystal Collective. We welcome humanity to the galaxy, but you must understand that all new species must prove they deserve to join our federation." Dr. Carter stepped forward and spoke, carefully. "We appreciate this opportunity. What kind of proof do you require from us?" She had spent months learning about alien customs and knew that being polite was very important. The crystal alien made a sound like wind chimes, and its translator spoke. "Every species must send their best warrior to compete in the grand arena. This tournament has decided the place of every species in our federation for over 3,000 years. The stronger you prove to be, the better position your people will have in galactic society." Jake felt his stomach drop. Earth had hoped that first contact would involve sharing technology and culture, not fighting. But Alex Rodriguez stepped forward with confidence. "What kind of fighting are we talking about?" The tree-like alien rustled its branches and spoke with a voice like wind through leaves. "One-on-one combat in different environments. The arena can create any world or situation. Warriors face each other until one cannot continue. Death is rare but possible. Most species send their champions enhanced with the best technology and genetic improvements." Alex looked at Jake and nodded slightly. Jake knew what the Marine was thinking. Alex had volunteered for this mission specifically because he wanted to represent humanity if fighting was required. The man had trained his whole life for combat and had never backed down from any challenge. "We accept," Jake said after a moment. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez will represent Earth in your arena." The 3 aliens looked at each other and made sounds that the translator said were laughter. Ambassador Zektar spoke again. "Your warrior is very small and weak-looking. Most galactic champions stand 3 meters tall and weigh as much as your entire vehicle. But we admire your courage even if it is foolish." Alex did not react to the insult. He had heard worse things from drill sergeants during his military training. Instead, he asked, "When does this tournament begin and what are the rules?" The crystal being changed to a bright red color, which the translator said meant amusement. "The tournament begins in 7 of your days. You may study previous matches and train however you wish. But I should warn you, The current champion has won 437 fights in a row. No warrior has even managed to hurt him in the last 20 years. Dr. Carter asked quietly. What happens if our representative loses? Humanity will be given the lowest position in the Federation, Zektar replied. Your people will serve the other species and follow their commands. You will have no voice in galactic decisions and no access to advanced technology. This is the fate of all weak species. The aliens left the ship, still making sounds of amusement. Jake, Lisa, and Alex stood in silence for a long moment. Finally, Alex spoke. Well, this should be interesting. Lisa looked worried. Alex, these aliens have technology we can barely understand. Their champions might not even be fully biological anymore. How can you possibly compete against that? Alex smiled and flexed his scarred hands. Doc, I've been fighting my whole life. On Earth, in space, in every kind of weather and terrain you can imagine. These aliens might be advanced, but I bet they've never had to really fight for their survival like humans have. Jake put his hand on Alex's shoulder. The entire human race is counting on you now. I know, Alex replied. And I'm not going to let them down. Alex Rodriguez spent the next 6 days studying everything he could about the Grand Arena and its champions. Commander Kate Phillips had arrived from Earth on a fast ship to help train him. Kate had been an Olympic athlete before joining the military, and she understood both physical training and strategy better than anyone. The two humans sat in a small room watching videos of past arena matches on a large screen. The current champion appeared first, and Alex felt his confidence shake a little. Thexmol the Destroyer stood 4 meters tall, and his body was made of living crystal that could change shape at will. In the video, Thexmol turned his arm into a massive sword and cut through a steel wall like it was paper. Then he fired beams of energy from his chest that melted solid rock. 37 years undefeated, Kate said quietly. He's beaten over 400 challengers, and most of them never even touched him. Alex watched as Thexmol fought a warrior that looked like a giant metal robot. The robot shot missiles and laser beams, but Thexmol just absorbed the energy and grew larger. Then he shaped his body into a giant hammer and smashed the robot into pieces with one blow. Look at his fighting style, Kate pointed out. He relies totally on his natural abilities. No real technique, no strategy. He just overpowers his opponents with raw strength and energy. Dr. Carter joined them and pulled up files on other alien species. I've been studying their biology, and I found something interesting. Most of these species evolved from prey animals or peaceful plant eaters. They developed technology and special abilities to avoid fighting, not to become better at it. She showed them pictures of different aliens. The Vorthak Empire comes from creatures that hid underground from predators. The Plant Federation species never had to hunt for food. Even the warrior races like the Crystal Collective developed their powers to defend themselves, not to attack others. Alex studied the information carefully. So they've never really learned how to fight like humans have? Exactly, Dr. Carter replied. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We chased down prey for hours or days until they collapsed from exhaustion. We developed teamwork, strategy, and the ability to keep fighting even when injured. These aliens have amazing powers, but they've never needed to develop those skills. Kate pulled up more videos showing different arena champions. There was Velosh, a being made of gas that could become solid or invisible at will. Another champion was Keldan, whose body was mostly advanced technology that made him incredibly fast and strong. Each one had abilities that seemed impossible for a human to match. But look at this, Kate said, slowing down one of the videos. Watch how they move. Alex saw that the gas-being fighter moved in predictable patterns. When it became solid to attack, it always chose the same basic forms. When it turned invisible, it always tried the same sneaky approaches. They're not adapting, Alex realized. They use their powers the same way every time. Right, Kate agreed. And look at their stamina. She showed him fight timers. Most arena matches lasted less than 10 minutes. The alien warriors would use their special abilities to try for quick victories. When fights went longer, many of them seemed to get tired quickly. Dr. Carter brought up her medical scans. I've been analyzing their biology from the diplomatic meetings. Their stress hormones and pain tolerance are much lower than humans. What we consider minor injuries would probably disable most of them. Alex felt his confidence growing. So they hit hard, but they can't take a hit? More than that, Dr. Carter explained. Your human adrenaline system is unique. When you get hurt or stressed, your body actually gets stronger and faster for a while. Their bodies don't work that way. Pain and stress make them weaker, not stronger. Kate stood up and started pacing. We need to use this. Your best chance is to make the fights last as long as possible. Wear them down. Make them use their energy while you conserve yours. Then when they're tired, you strike. Alex nodded, but he still looked concerned. That's all good strategy, but some of these abilities are just too powerful. How do I fight someone? Who can turn invisible or walk through walls? By being human, Kate replied. Our ancestors hunted animals that could run faster, climb higher, and hide better than we could. But we won because we were smarter and more determined. We used tools, we set traps, we never gave up. Dr. Carter added, and the arena environments might actually help you. I've studied the records, and the arena can create any world or situation. Most alien species evolved on worlds that were much more peaceful than Earth. They're not used to extreme weather, rough terrain, or dangerous conditions. Earth is a death world compared to most planets, Kate explained. Humans are used to fighting in deserts, jungles, frozen wastelands, and toxic swamps. These aliens probably panic in conditions that we consider normal. Alex spent the rest of the day training with Kate. They practiced fighting techniques that used an opponent's strength against them. They worked on endurance exercises and pain tolerance. Most importantly, they practiced staying calm and thinking clearly under extreme stress. Remember, Kate told him as they finished training, every alien you fight will expect you to be afraid of their powers. They'll try to scare you into giving up. But you've faced scarier things than any of them can imagine. Alex thought about his years of military service. He had fought in burning cities, frozen mountains, and underwater bases. He had been shot, stabbed, and blown up more times than he could count. Each time he had gotten back up and kept fighting. You're right, he said. I've been preparing for this my whole life without knowing it. Dr. Carter showed him one final piece of information. I've been studying the arena's betting systems. Right now, the odds against you winning even one fight are 10,000 to 1. Some aliens are betting their entire fortunes that you'll lose in the first round. Alex smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. Good. I like it when people underestimate me. Kate patted him on the shoulder. Tomorrow you enter the arena. Earth is counting on you, but remember that you're not just fighting for our planet. You're fighting to show the galaxy what humans are really capable of. Alex looked out the window at the massive arena structure floating in space. Millions of aliens would be watching his first fight, expecting to see humanity humiliated. But they had no idea what they were about to witness. Let's give them a show they'll never forget, he said. The grand arena was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. The massive structure floated in space like a small moon and could hold millions of spectators. As he walked through the entrance tunnel, Alex could hear the roar of alien crowds echoing through the walls. Today, beings from across the galaxy had come to watch what they expected would be humanity's quick defeat. Alex wore simple combat gear, just basic armor and boots that would work in any environment. He carried no weapons because arena rules said fighters could only use what they found in the combat zone or what their bodies could create. Around him, other warriors prepared for their own matches, and Alex tried not to stare at how strange they looked. One fighter was a blob of purple liquid that moved by flowing across the floor. Another looked like a walking skeleton made of black metal. A third appeared to be a small tornado with glowing eyes in the center. All of them ignored Alex completely, as if he was not worth their attention. An arena official approached Alex. The alien looked like a tall blue lizard wearing fancy robes. "Human warrior, you will fight Grixtal of the Insect Collective in Combat Zone 7. The environment will be the poison swamps of Veltar Prime. Do you understand the rules?" Alex nodded. "Fight until one of us can't continue. No outside help. Use whatever I can find in the zone." "Correct," the official replied. "Your opponent has won 43 matches and lost only 7. His exoskeleton can stop energy weapons, and his 6 arms move faster than most beings can see. The swamp environment will release toxic gases that kill most life forms within minutes. Are you prepared to withdraw from this hopeless fight?" "No," Alex said simply. "I'm ready." The official made a sound that might have been laughter. "Very well. Enter the transport chamber." Alex stepped into a small room that immediately filled with bright light. When the light faded, he found himself standing on a small island of solid ground surrounded by dark, bubbling swamp water. The air smelled terrible, and he could see green gas rising from the water in several places. Dead trees stuck up from the swamp like broken bones, and strange sounds echoed from the murky depths. Across the swamp on another island stood Grixtal. The insect warrior was 2.5 meters tall with a shiny black shell covering his entire body. 6 arms ended in sharp claws, and his head looked like a giant ant with glowing red eyes. When he moved, Alex could see that he was incredibly fast. Above them, holographic screens showed the fight to millions of alien spectators. A voice announced the match in dozens of different languages, and Alex heard the translator say, "The primitive human faces veteran warrior Grixtal in the deadly poison swamps. Betting odds favor Grixtal at 8,000 to 1. Grixtal made a clicking sound that the translator turned into words. "Human, you should have stayed on your little world. I will make your death quick as a mercy." Alex did not reply. Instead, he studied the swamp around him and noticed several things the insect warrior had missed. The dead trees were actually still alive at the roots. He could see new growth near the waterline. That meant the toxic gas was probably only dangerous above a certain height. Also, the bubbling areas were creating small currents in the water. That could be used for movement. When the starting signal sounded, Grixtal immediately leaped toward Alex with all 6 arms spread wide. The insect moved so fast he seemed to blur, but Alex was already rolling to the side and into the swamp water. The crowd gasped because everyone expected the toxic water to kill him instantly. But Alex had noticed that the gas was only deadly in concentrated amounts above the water surface. By staying low and moving underwater, he could avoid most of the poison. The water was warm and thick, but not dangerous if he held his breath and kept moving. Grixtal landed where Alex had been standing and looked around in confusion. He could move incredibly fast on solid ground, but the swamp water slowed him down. His heavy exoskeleton was designed for fighting on normal planets, not swimming through toxic swamps. Alex surfaced near one of the dead trees and quickly climbed up just high enough to breathe safely. Grixtal spotted him and leaped again, but Alex was already moving. He grabbed a thick branch and swung to another tree like a monkey. His years of military training in jungle environments were paying off. The insect warrior tried to follow, but the dead wood could not support his weight. A branch broke, and Grixtal fell back into the swamp with a loud splash. He struggled to get back to solid ground while Alex watched from above and planned his next move. "The human is running like a coward," Grixtal clicked angrily. "Face me properly and fight." But Alex was not running, he was hunting. He had spent his childhood in the forests of Earth, learning to track animals and move silently through trees. Now he used those same skills to stay ahead of his opponent while the toxic environment slowly wore Grixtal down. The insect warrior was getting frustrated and tired. His fast movements used up energy quickly, and the swamp gas was starting to affect him even though his exoskeleton provided some protection. Each time he tried to reach Alex, the human had already moved to a new position. Alex waited until Grixtal was standing on a small island near several bubbling gas vents. Then he dropped from his tree and landed in the water without making a sound. Swimming underwater, he approached the island from behind while Grixtal searched the trees above. When Alex surfaced silently behind the insect warrior, he was holding a long piece of broken wood like a spear. Grixtal's exoskeleton was strong, but Alex had noticed that the joints between shell plates were softer. He drove the wooden spear into the gap behind Grixtal's left knee with all his strength. Grixtal screamed and spun around, swinging his claws wildly. But the injury made him off balance, and Alex was already moving again. The insect tried to pursue, but his damaged leg could not support his weight properly. He stumbled and fell face first into one of the gas vents. The concentrated poison overwhelmed Grixtal's protection systems. He tried to get up, but his body was no longer responding correctly. Alex emerged from the water and stood over his defeated opponent. "Do you yield?" Alex asked. Grixtal made weak clicking sounds that translated to, "I yield. You fight without honor, human." Alex looked up at the cameras broadcasting to the galaxy. "I fight to win." The arena official's voice announced the shocking result. Victory to the human warrior Alex Rodriguez. Time elapsed, 37 minutes and 12 seconds. The alien crowds fell completely silent. No one had expected this outcome. On Earth, every human watching erupted in celebration. But Alex just stood quietly in the swamp, breathing hard and planning for his next fight. He had proven that humans could compete in the galactic arena, but this was only the beginning. The real challenges were still ahead, and now every alien warrior in the tournament would be studying his tactics. Alex smiled grimly as the transport beam carried him back to the preparation areas. Let them study all they wanted. They still had no idea what humans were truly capable of when their backs were against the wall. After his victory over Grixtal, Alex became the center of attention throughout the galaxy. Every news broadcast showed replays of the human warrior defeating an opponent that should have killed him easily. The betting odds began to shift as some aliens started to take humanity seriously, but most still believed Alex had just been lucky. Back on Earth, the entire planet watched every match with growing excitement. General Patricia Hayes set up a special command center to provide Alex with tactical advice through quantum communications. Scientists like Dr. Benjamin Clark studied each fight and sent detailed analysis of upcoming opponents. Alex's second match was against Morden the Psychic Devastator, a being that looked like a floating brain surrounded by purple energy. Morden could read minds, create illusions, and attack directly with mental force. Many warriors had been driven insane just by facing him in combat. The arena environment for this fight was a maze of mirrors that reflected light and psychic energy in confusing patterns. As soon as Alex materialized in the maze, he felt Morden's mind trying to invade his thoughts. Alien whispers filled his head, and he saw images of his worst fears and failures. But Alex had prepared for this kind of attack. Kate Phillips had taught him meditation techniques borrowed from Earth's martial arts masters. Instead of fighting the mental invasion, Alex let the alien thoughts flow through his mind without resisting them. He focused on his breathing and stayed calm even as Morden tried to fill his head with terror. "Interesting," Morden's voice echoed through the maze. "Your mind is different than others, more chaotic but also more flexible. No matter, I will break you eventually." Alex moved through the mirror maze slowly and carefully. The reflections were designed to confuse psychic beings who relied on mental senses to navigate. But humans had evolved to hunt with their eyes, and Alex could tell the difference between real passages and reflected images. Morden appeared around a corner, floating, a meter off the ground with energy crackling around his brain body. Look into my eyes, primitive creature, and see the futility of your resistance. Alex made the mistake of looking directly at the psychic being and immediately felt his mind being torn apart. Mordoon was incredibly powerful, and his mental attacks were like knives cutting through Alex's thoughts. But instead of trying to block the pain, Alex used it to fuel his anger and determination. The alien crowds watching the fight expected Alex to collapse, screaming like most of Mordoon's victims. Instead, the human warrior charged straight at the psychic being while roaring like an angry animal. Mordoon was so surprised by this reaction that his mental attack faltered for just a moment. That moment was all Alex needed. He leaped up and grabbed Mordoon's floating form with both hands. The psychic being tried to phase out of physical reality, but Alex held on with desperate strength. You want to see inside my head? Then see what humans do to things that threaten us. Alex slammed Mordoon against the nearest mirror with bone-crushing force. The psychic being shrieked and tried to escape, but Alex had learned something important. Mordoon needed concentration to use his powers effectively. By staying in close physical contact and constantly attacking, Alex prevented the alien from focusing his mental abilities. The two fighters crashed through mirror after mirror as they struggled. Mordoon's psychic blasts grew weaker and more desperate, while Alex's attacks became more savage. Finally, Alex managed to pin the alien against a wall and began squeezing his brain body with both hands. "I yield," Mordoon gasped. "I yield before you damage my mind permanently." Alex released his opponent and stepped back, breathing heavily. Around the galaxy, alien viewers sat in stunned silence. A human had just defeated one of the most feared psychic warriors using nothing but physical strength and mental toughness. His third opponent was Velosh the Phase Shifter, a being made of living gas that could become solid or invisible at will. The arena environment was a space station with atmospheric processors that could be controlled by the fighters. Most warriors tried to adjust the air to harm their opponents, but Alex had a different idea. When Velosh turned invisible and tried to sneak up on him, Alex used the station's own systems to create electromagnetic fields. The energy fields disrupted Velosh's gaseous form and made him visible as a glowing outline. Then Alex chased the confused alien through the station corridors until Velosh was too tired to maintain his special abilities. The galactic media began calling Alex the Persistence Predator because of his ability to outlast opponents who seemed much more powerful. Sports commentator HFY of the Centaurian network made observations that worried many alien leaders. These humans possess something we have not seen in the arena for thousands of years, HFY reported. They do not just react to threats. They think several steps ahead while fighting for their lives. They adapt to any situation and never give up no matter how hopeless things appear. Alex's victories continued as he advanced through the tournament brackets. Against a warrior made of living metal, he used the arena's magnetic fields to disable his opponent's movements. Against a creature that could multiply itself into dozens of copies, Alex ignored all the duplicates and focused on finding the real one by studying their behavior patterns. Each victory sent shockwaves through galactic society. Species that had ruled sectors for millennia began to fear that humanity might actually win the tournament. If Alex became the grand champion, Earth would gain massive political power in the Federation, and the other species would have to treat humans as equals. Ambassador Zektar visited the human delegation after Alex's fifth victory. The alien diplomat no longer sounded amused when he spoke. "Your warrior has surprised us all. We did not expect such effectiveness from a primitive species." Captain Morrison smiled politely. "Perhaps humanity is not as primitive as you assumed." "Perhaps not," Zektar admitted. "But the semi-final opponent will be Keldan the Eternal, a cybernetic warrior whose technology has been perfected over thousands of years. No amount of determination can overcome such advanced enhancement." Dr. Carter had been studying Keldan's previous matches, and she shared her findings with Alex during his preparation time. He's 90% machine now. His reaction time is measured in microseconds, and his weapons can punch through starship armor. But I think I found a weakness. She showed Alex detailed scans of the cybernetic warrior. All that technology needs massive amounts of power. His organic core, what's left of his original body, handles the power distribution. If you could damage that core somehow, his entire system would fail. Alex nodded, but he looked concerned. Getting close enough to hit his core means surviving everything else he can throw at me first. Kate Phillips put her hand on his shoulder. You've come this far by being smarter than your opponents. Keldan is powerful, but he's also predictable. His computer brain makes logical choices, but humans can be illogical when they need to be. Alex spent the night before the semi-final match thinking about everything he had learned. He was representing not just Earth, but the idea that determination and adaptability could overcome any obstacle. Tomorrow, he would face an opponent whose creators had spent centuries trying to build the perfect warrior. But Alex had something those creators had never understood: the human ability to find hope in hopeless situations and to keep fighting when logic said to surrender. He would need every bit of that strength for the battle ahead. The semi-final match took place in an environment that seemed designed to favor Keldan completely. The arena had created a zero-gravity asteroid field with chunks of rock floating in three-dimensional space. Energy barriers and gravity wells shifted position every few minutes, creating a constantly changing battlefield that required split-second timing and perfect calculation. Alex floated near one of the larger asteroids and watched Keldan approach from across the field. The cybernetic warrior was a terrifying sight. 3 meters tall with a body that was mostly advanced machinery. Rocket engines built into his back and legs allowed him to move through zero gravity with perfect control. His arms ended in weapon systems that could fire energy beams, explosive projectiles, or create force fields. But it was Keldan's eyes that were most disturbing. They glowed with cold blue light and showed no emotion at all. The organic parts of his brain had been connected to quantum computers that could process millions of calculations per second. He was the perfect fusion of biological intelligence and machine precision. Human warrior. Keldan spoke in a voice that sounded like metal grinding against metal. I have studied your previous matches extensively. Your tactics are crude but effective against opponents who underestimate you. I will not make that mistake. Alex pushed off from his asteroid and began floating toward Keldan at a slow, steady pace. Good. I was getting tired of fighting opponents who thought I was harmless. Keldan immediately opened fire with multiple weapon systems. Energy beams and explosive missiles filled the space around Alex, but the human was already moving. Had spent hours training with Colonel Ryan Murphy, a former astronaut who understood three-dimensional combat better than anyone on Earth. Instead of trying to dodge the attacks directly, Alex used the asteroids themselves as shields and stepping stones. He pushed off one rock to change direction suddenly, then grabbed another to swing around behind cover. Keldan's computer brain calculated the most logical flight paths, but Alex deliberately chose illogical routes that confused the targeting systems. Impossible, Keldan muttered as his shots missed repeatedly. Your trajectory calculations make no sense. Alex grinned as he bounced between floating rocks like a three-dimensional pinball. That's because I'm not calculating. I'm just moving. The cybernetic warrior adjusted his tactics and began firing at the asteroids themselves, trying to destroy Alex's cover and create debris fields. But Alex had anticipated this and was already using the broken rock pieces as weapons. He grabbed chunks of stone and hurled them at Keldan with surprising accuracy. Most of the rocks bounced harmlessly off Keldan's armor, but they forced him to adjust his position constantly. Alex was not trying to damage his opponent directly. He was studying the way Keldan moved and looking for patterns in his behavior. After several minutes of this deadly game of tag, Alex noticed something important. Keldan's rocket engines needed to cool down between uses, and his weapon systems drew power from the same energy core. When he fired his most powerful weapons, his mobility decreased slightly. Alex began baiting Keldan into using his heavy weapons by exposing himself at long range. Each time the cybernetic warrior fired his main cannons, Alex would disappear behind cover and move to a new position while Keldan's engines recharged. "You cannot run forever, human," Keldan announced. "My power systems can operate at this level for approximately 4 hours. Your biological limitations will force you to make mistakes long before then." But Alex was not making mistakes. He was making plans. While Keldan focused on the immediate tactical situation, Alex was thinking about the asteroid field itself. He had noticed that several of the larger rocks were positioned near gravity wells that could be activated by impact. Alex began leading Keldan on a chase through the asteroid field, always staying just out of reach. The cybernetic warrior grew, frustrated, and began taking more risks to catch his opponent. His logical mind calculated that Alex was trying to tire him out, but those same calculations said that humans should be exhausted much faster than machines. What Keldan did not understand was that Alex was not getting tired. He was getting more focused. The human ability to perform under extreme stress was something no computer could replicate. As the fight continued, Alex's movements became more precise and his planning more sophisticated. Finally, Alex positioned himself near the largest asteroid in the field, one that was floating directly above a massive gravity well generator. When Keldan approached for what he expected to be the final attack, Alex did something completely unexpected. He grabbed onto the cybernetic warrior instead of running away. "What are you doing?" Keldan demanded as he tried to shake Alex loose. "This is tactically unsound." Alex held on with desperate strength, while Keldan's weapon systems fired wildly around them. "Sometimes the best tactic is to do something completely crazy." Using his grip on Keldan's armor, Alex swung both of them toward the large asteroid with all his remaining strength. Keldan tried to compensate with his rocket engines, but Alex had grabbed his fuel lines and damaged them during the struggle. They crashed into the asteroid with tremendous force, and the impact activated the gravity well below them. Suddenly, both fighters were pulled downward by artificial gravity that was 10 times stronger than Earth normal. Alex had experienced high-gravity training during his military service, but Keldan's systems were not designed for such extreme conditions. The cybernetic warrior's joints began to buckle under the massive gravitational force. His quantum computers calculated thousands of possible escape strategies, but his mechanical body could not execute any of them. Meanwhile, Alex used every technique he had learned about fighting in extreme environments to stay mobile. "This is impossible," Keldan repeated as his systems began failing one by one. "Biological entities cannot function under these gravitational conditions." Alex crawled across the asteroid's surface toward Keldan's struggling form. "You forgot something important about humans. We're too stubborn to know when something is impossible." With his last burst of energy, Alex reached Keldan's organic core and delivered a precise strike that he had been planning for the entire fight. The cybernetic warrior's power distribution system failed, and his mechanical body went completely still. "I yield," Keldan said quietly, as his backup systems struggled to keep his organic brain alive. "You have taught me that there are things more powerful than perfect technology." Alex collapsed next to his defeated opponent, every muscle in his body screaming with pain. The gravity well shut down automatically, and both fighters were transported back to the arena's medical facility. As news of Alex's victory spread across the galaxy, alien leaders began having emergency meetings. A human had just defeated the most advanced warrior in known space, using nothing but determination and tactical thinking. The implications were terrifying for species that had relied on technology to maintain their dominance. But Alex was not thinking about galactic politics. As medical robots repaired his injuries, he was thinking about his final opponent, Thex Mol, the Destroyer, the crystal being who had held the championship for 37 years and never been seriously challenged. Tomorrow he would face the ultimate test of everything humans could accomplish when they refused to give up. The entire galaxy would be watching to see if one determined human could prove that no opponent was truly unbeatable. The championship match was the most watched event in galactic history. Beings from every corner of known space had gathered at Nexus Prime or tuned in through quantum broadcasts to witness what many believed would be humanity's final defeat. The betting odds had shifted dramatically after Alex's previous victories, but most aliens still favored Thexmol to win. Alex stood in the preparation chamber and tried to calm his racing heart. Through the transparent walls, he could see Thexmol in the opposite chamber, and the sight was intimidating. The crystal champion stood 4 meters tall, and his body pulsed with internal energy that made the air around him shimmer with heat. Every few seconds his form would shift slightly as different weapon configurations flowed through his crystalline structure. Dr. Carter and Commander Phillips stood beside Alex, offering last-minute advice. "Remember everything we've learned about him," Kate said. "He's incredibly powerful, but he's never faced an opponent who could match his endurance. Most fighters try to win quickly before he can fully power up. Your best chance is to make this fight last as long as possible," Dr. Carter added. "His energy reserves are massive but not infinite. If you can survive his initial attacks and force him to keep fighting, eventually even he will get tired." Alex nodded, but his attention was focused on the arena environment that was materializing around them. The championship arena was the most complex ever created, a constantly shifting maze of energy barriers, gravity wells, and environmental hazards that changed every 30 seconds. Platforms appeared and disappeared, walls moved on their own, and deadly energy fields sparked randomly throughout the space. This environment was designed to test the ultimate adaptability of galactic champions, an arena official explained. "Only the most flexible and intelligent warriors can hope to survive more than a few minutes in these conditions." Alex smiled grimly. If there was one thing humans excelled at, it was adapting to hostile environments. Earth itself was more dangerous than most alien worlds, and Alex had trained in conditions that would kill most galactic species within minutes. The starting signal echoed through the arena, and both fighters materialized on opposite sides of the shifting battlefield. Thexmol immediately began powering up, his crystal body glowing brighter as energy coursed through him. When he spoke, his voice boomed across the arena like thunder. "So the little human has made it to the final round. I admit I am impressed by your victories over lesser opponents. But I am Thexmol the Destroyer, undefeated champion for 37 years. Today your remarkable journey ends." Alex did not reply immediately. He was studying the way the environment shifted and looking for patterns in the chaos. After a moment, he called back. "I've heard that speech before from every opponent I've faced. You all sound exactly the same." Thexmol's form flared with anger, and he fired a massive energy beam that could have melted through a starship hull. But Alex was already moving, using a gravity well to slingshot himself to a different platform just as his original position exploded into molten slag. The Crystal Champion pursued with devastating attacks that reshaped the entire battlefield. Where Alex had been standing, walls of energy formed and platforms crumbled into nothing. But Alex stayed ahead of the destruction by reading the environmental changes and using them to his advantage. "Stop running and fight me properly," Thexmol roared as his attacks continued to miss. "Face me with honor." "Honor doesn't win fights," Alex replied while swinging from a moving platform to avoid another energy blast. "Staying alive does." What Thexmol did not understand was that Alex was not running away. He was hunting. Every movement was calculated to study his opponent's fighting patterns and energy usage. Alex noticed that Thexmol's most powerful attacks required several seconds to charge up, and that the Crystal Champion always telegraphed his moves with changes in his body's glow patterns. For the first hour of the fight, Alex concentrated entirely on survival while Thexmol grew increasingly frustrated. The crystal being had expected to end the match quickly with overwhelming force, but the human kept escaping at the last possible moment. "How are you predicting my attacks?" Thexmol demanded, after another devastating blast missed by inches. "My energy patterns should be random to primitive sensors." Alex landed on a temporary platform and caught his breath. "You're not random at all. You have habits just like every other fighter I've faced. You just never had an opponent who survived long enough to figure them out." As the fight continued, Thexmol's attacks became more desperate and less controlled. He was using enormous amounts of energy to reshape the battlefield, but Alex kept adapting to every change. When walls appeared to block his escape routes, Alex climbed over them. When gravity wells tried to trap him, Alex used them to change direction unexpectedly. By the third hour, something unprecedented was happening. Thexmol was getting tired. His energy reserves were vast, but not unlimited, and Alex's persistence was forcing him to work harder than he had in decades. The Crystal Champion's movements became slightly slower and his attacks less precise. "This is impossible," Thexmol gasped between energy blasts. "No opponent has ever lasted this long against me. What kind of creature are you?" Alex wiped blood from a cut on his forehead and grinned. "I'm human. We don't know when to quit." The tide of battle began to turn as Thexmol's fatigue became more obvious. Alex started taking more risks, getting closer to his opponent and looking for openings. When Thexmol shaped his arm into a massive sword, Alex rolled under the blade and struck at the crystal joint where the weapon connected to the champion's shoulder. The blow cracked Thexmol's crystal structure slightly, and the champion roared in pain and surprise. No one had managed to hurt him in over 20 years. Alex's attack had not done serious damage, but it proved that the Crystal Champion was not invincible. "You actually wounded me," Thexmol said, with something that might have been respect. "I had forgotten what that felt like." The final phase of the fight lasted another hour as both warriors pushed themselves to their absolute limits. Alex was battered and exhausted, but his human determination kept him moving. Thexmol was still incredibly powerful, but his energy was finally running low after the longest fight of his career. In the end, it was Thexmol's own power that defeated him. Alex lured the Crystal Champion into firing his most devastating attack at a cluster of gravity generators. The massive energy blast triggered a cascade failure that created an unstable gravity field around Thexmol himself. The Crystal Champion found himself trapped in a gravitational anomaly of his own creation. His attempts to break free only made the situation worse, as his energy discharges fed back into the gravity field. Finally, exhausted and unable to escape, Thexmol's crystal form began to crack under the tremendous forces. "I yield," Thexmol said quietly as his body started to crumble. "I yield to the human champion." The gravity field collapsed, and both fighters fell to the arena floor. Alex crawled over to where Thexmol lay with his crystal structure severely damaged, but still alive. "How?" Thexmol asked weakly. "How did a primitive species defeat the ultimate warrior?" Alex sat down heavily beside his fallen opponent. "Because humans never give up. We keep fighting even when we should be dead. We adapt to anything and we learn from every mistake. Most importantly, we never accept that something is impossible." As medical teams arrived to help both fighters, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. A human had just won the Grand Arena Championship in the longest title fight in recorded history. The implications would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. On Earth, every human celebrated as news of Alex's victory spread across the planet. Humanity had earned not just membership in the Galactic Federation, but a seat on the ruling council. The species that had once dismissed humans as primitive now looked at them with a mixture of respect and fear. Ambassador Morrison signed the Treaty of Nexus Prime, establishing Earth as a major galactic power. But more importantly, Alex had proven that determination and adaptability could overcome any obstacle. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the most advanced solution was the most human one. Never give up and keep fighting until you win. Alex Rodriguez returned to Earth as humanity's first galactic champion, but he knew this was just the beginning. The universe was vast and full of challenges that would test everything humans could accomplish. As he looked up at the stars, Alex smiled and began planning for whatever came next.